All right, so we're going to talk today about denial of service. I want to talk to you about denial of service attacks. And we mentioned early in the class that there's, broadly speaking, three kinds of security properties: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. We spent a lot of time talking about confidentiality and integrity, and today we'll talk about availability. And a denial of service attack is an attack on availability. So a denial of service attack is about preventing legitimate users from using some computing service. And we'll also talk about distributed denial of service attacks, which occur when they're a type of denial of service attack that involves many, many machines all cooperating, many malicious machines all cooperating to try to mount a denial of service attack. So that's the topic for today. There are many reasons why someone might be motivated to mount a denial of service attack. Maybe it's a kind of a showing off, or just for fun, or to see the world burn, or anarchy. Maybe it's a commercial, financial motivation. I'll show you some examples of that in a moment. Maybe it's revenge. If you can imagine the classic extortion scam of that's sure is a nice website you got there. It would be a shame if something were to happen to it. And this is the kind of attack we see regularly, where operators of large websites get threatened that either pay protection money, or else someone will mount a denial of service attack and make their website unreachable. So that's extortion. It could be political purposes. It could be to enable some other kind of attack, like if you can mount a denial of service attack that takes down the security team's machines, then maybe they won't be able to respond. Maybe it's espionage or warfare. So a lot of possibilities. And I thought I'd show you a few examples of denial of service attacks over the years. Here's one. This is an article from Brian Krebs, I think, who's an investigative reporter. He's a great blog. If you like security, check out his blog. He reports on cybercrime and criminals. He does some of the most interesting reporting on what kind of bad stuff is going on the internet. And this is an excerpt from an article where he talks about the fact that denial of service attacks are so common that bad guys have set up denial of service as a service. You pay them a little bit of money and they will mount a denial of service attack. They'll take down a website, and look at the amount they'll charge. Only $5 to $10 an hour to take a website offline. My goodness. It's the thing that's amazing here is not that it's possible, but how cheap it is. I mentioned extortion. We're starting to see extortion, and gambling sites have been a real juicy target for criminals. Maybe it's partly because the criminals figure the gambling sites are sort of shady and maybe only partially kind of legal, and so maybe they figure they won't get that much help from police. But I think it's also that the gambling sites are raking in a lot of money, and where do criminals go? They go where the money is. And if attackers can take a gambling site offline for a day, then that gambling site makes no money that entire day. So they lose a lot of money. They have a lot of money to lose. Here's another attack from a decade ago or more. Attackers using denial of service to facilitate another attack. So the bad guys sent out a phishing email, and then they would take down the real bank's website, and the phishing email would say, "Our normal website is down, so please go here to go access your account." Yeah, sometimes we've seen attacks against security teams. Okay, so for instance, here's one website that's it's a kind of a forum and a company aimed at helping security teams coordinate to defend against different kinds of scams and fraud online. Well, that's really annoying to the scammers and the frauders. And so at one point they started taking down that site, mounting a denial of service attack to send a lot of traffic at that website, more than the website could handle, and then no one else could reach that website. Yeah, I saw a comment in chat that groups in 4chan used to do this stuff for fun. Um, and you also done for political reasons, like um, the group who have folks who call themselves anonymous um, um set out to punish Visa and MasterCard by mounting a denial of service attack against their website. And why? It was because they supported WikiLeaks, and MasterCard and Visa blocked donations to WikiLeaks. And so this was a kind of a political revenge. We see denial of service attacks against activists, human rights activists. Here's a survey results from a decade ago showing that over half of the surveyed human rights organizations had been subject to denial of service attack. And you could imagine reasons why repressive governments might want to do that. They might want to disrupt the operations of activists who are making them look bad. We've seen it used in the political arena to try to influence elections. So there was a case in Korea where an attacker tried to disrupt a mayoral election by using a denial of service attack against the election officials to try to disrupt the operations of the election. I don't think it had much effect, but it was kind of an eye-opener of like, oh boy, someone could try to go after us in this way. One of the things about these attacks, by the way, is that attribution is very difficult. It can be very difficult to tell who mounted the attack, or why, or where's this coming from. All you know is that you're getting a ton of traffic and your website's not reachable, and it's hard to know who's ultimately responsible. When we saw heightened tension between Russia, Georgia, Estonia, there was large-scale denial of service attacks against the Georgian websites, against Estonian websites. As far as we could tell, I think in Estonia, I think it was probably not government-sponsored. It was probably led by some Russian citizens who were anti-Estonian. There were some reasons to think that maybe in Georgia, maybe this was a government-run, military-run operation to try to impede the operations of the government of Georgia. We've seen China use denial of service attacks against anti-censorship site, a site that was devoted to enabling Chinese citizens to access to unfiltered internet and provide circumvention tools to Chinese citizens. And China mounted a denial of service attack against both that group, which was distributing tools, and maybe the more interesting part was also GitHub. They took down all of GitHub because that group had a GitHub repository where you could download their tools. And this actually was a very interesting attack that we mentioned earlier in this class, that involved acting as a man in the middle and injecting malicious JavaScript into the clients of people who visited, I think, the Baidu search engine. Some fraction of people who visited the Baidu search engine had malicious JavaScript injected into that connection that caused their client to, unbeknownst to them, start sending lots of traffic to GitHub, to overwhelm GitHub servers. And it actually led to GitHub removing the repository for this organization because it was so disruptive to all their users. Okay, so that's a very challenging kind of denial of service attack to deal with, because from GitHub's perspective, they're getting thousands of connections from thousands of computers around the world with no pattern whatsoever. There's no discernible pattern to those. And it's very difficult to tell apart those connections designed to take down the website from legitimate connections of customers who want to reach them, and the servers just get overloaded.